0345 6060 973.
7:49. Come back to our conversation concerning the cost of living, and coming up, of course, those grim headlines that suggest there could be a nurses' strike on the way. We're looking at that in the next hour. But to that race to be the leader of the Conservative Party, and then, of course, in turn to be the Prime Minister, Liz Truss saying she would make tackling antisocial behaviour a key priority if she is victorious. She used a planned visit alongside former party leader Sir Ian Duncan-Smith to a youth centre in Dagenham in East London yesterday to reiterate her commitment for police forces to get back to basics and spend their time making streets safer. Let's bring into the conversation with more details Government Minister Paul Scully. He's Minister for Local Government Communities and Minister for London as well, and is supporting Liz Truss. Can you give us some more details on how the Foreign Secretary, who could be Prime Minister, hopes to bring this about? Good morning, Minister.
Morning, Nick. Yes, she wants to continue and absolutely deliver on the 20,000 police officers recruitment to make sure that we're at full numbers and make sure that they're visible and out on the street, so where people can see them, where they're also adding intelligence for the rest of the police force in tackling crime. She's going to set targets for cutting crime, but the most serious crime, by 20%. And also having those serious crimes like homicide and assaults, etc., reported on in league tables as well, so that people can actually see what their police force are doing and make it open and transparent.
How fair are league tables in policing, Minister?
Well, I think they're a really useful tool when they're compared with other data as well, because you already have a lot of crime mapping that is available to people. So the more data that people can see, that adds the context to it. What you don't want to be doing is cherry picking figures, clearly. But you want to be able to see.
Let's pretend you and I are both senior officers, and you're in charge of policing Cheam, and I'm in charge of policing Croydon. I would argue I have a bigger set of challenges than you do. I don't know if those figures will fairly reflect that, Minister.
Well, I think what they'll do, they will show the comparative areas, because you're right, when you're talking about serious crimes, and I was talking about homicide, assaults, etc. Now, the kind of crimes in Cheam that people are interested in is acquisitive crimes, burglaries, automotive, the theft of and from cars. These are the kind of things that people are interested in Cheam, because they're the most prevalent crimes, and that's why more police on the street, and that's why target to cut those crimes is far more important for the people in Cheam. But it's comparative. You need to have the context.
How would you, that is quite a promise or a pledge, Minister, to cut serious crime by 20%. How does the Foreign Secretary, possibly Prime Minister, intend to make that happen?
Well, I think it's greater use of police and crime commissioners to make sure that that we're pushing the onus on people that can then be held accountable to their electorate to set the strategic approach, but also to make sure that there are enough police who are not then having to fill in forms and get involved in bureaucracy. Give them the tools to do the job, i.e. tackling crime directly rather than bureaucracy.
And so issues such as we saw yesterday, 6 police officers in Hampshire going down to arrest and put in handcuffs a man who'd passed on a social media message which depicted the LBGT flag in a sort of swastika affair. 6 police officers. That, we would agree, would be an overuse of personnel, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. From everything I saw of that article, I would agree with you. And I don't know the details of it, but I saw the coverage of it, and at first sight, absolutely, it looks like that, and that's exactly the kind of thing that we want to reduce and remove.
Staying with policing and reminding my listeners, of course, you also have the brief as Minister for London, and you are a London MP yourself. 3 of the Met's top officers have decided to leave before the new man, Sir Mark Rowley, goes in as Commissioner of the Met in the middle of next month. Why might that be, and what sort of vacuum does that leave at the top, Minister?
Well, I don't know their motivations, Nick, but we want to make sure that Mark's got a big job on his hands to restore the trust in the Met from people around London. He's got to build the relationships with both the Mayor and government, and indeed the people of London, to make sure that we can see as Londoners that they are focusing on the things that we were just been talking about.
But again, it leaves it's 3 key lieutenants. It leaves a bit of a gap, does it not, Minister?
Yeah, it absolutely does. So that's the first job. He's got to make sure that he's at full strength to be able to do what Londoners expect of him, and it's a big job to do. But I've no doubt Mark will do that.
OK. A couple of other matters. One, again, as your brief as London Minister. How likely is it Thames Water will impose a hosepipe ban on residents of this city and, of course, outside of London?
Yeah, I haven't had feedback, Nick, to be fair, from Thames Water as yet as to the reservoir levels within London. I think it's always sensible for people to be conserving water anyway, from an environmental point of view and a cost point of view for those people on a water meter. But we'll look carefully, because the whole point about London and the southeast is that the more development you have and the less rainfall there is, then obviously there's less to go around, and we've got to be careful.
Are you concerned? It's an interesting point you make there, Minister. Are you concerned about the level of development, particularly in and around London, all the housing that's going up, which is obviously great. It will continue to make London the powerhouse of the economy. But we have to be aware there are problems, and there are problems with water, whether we are providing enough reservoirs, noting, as I'm sure you're aware, the desalination plant in Beckton, sadly, will not be online this year. We don't even know if it will provide any clean water for next year, Minister.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the whole point about development is infrastructure in general. So water is crucial, electricity, where you have, electricity competing needs for electricity in terms of commercial and data centres and these kind of things in West London, with developments that are going on, residential developments going on, and the amount of time it might take to connect to electricity, schools, hospitals, etc. We've got to make sure that when we are looking at developing brownfield sites and the city, that infrastructure follows. So we've got to be really, looking at it in a holistic point of view. We've got a brownfield fund at the moment to just get, which we've just been launching, which is to get best use out of increased brownfield sites. And I'm off to Southall to see one example after this morning's round. It'd be really interesting to see how they're tackling that infrastructure issue.
And lastly, there is a suggestion coming, or staying with water, that the bosses who in some instances get eye-watering bonuses, those bonuses should actually be stopped until the massive amount of leaks are fixed. Would you support such a campaign?
Well, I think what water bosses have got to do, they've got to realise that, yes, I understand that all the point about shareholder value, but you've got to invest in the in the infrastructure, no doubt about it. We trust them to do that. We pay a lot of money as individual customers to these people to actually fix the leaks, and it's all very well us as individuals being put upon to do our bit for the environment. Water companies, utility companies need to do their bit as well.
Grateful for your time as ever. Thank you, Paul Scully, as Local Government Communities Faith Minister and Communities and Faith and London Minister, appearing here supporting the Liz Truss campaign, talking about tackling crime, particularly 20% reduction in violent crime. Might try and talk to you, Michael, about that. But Janine in Swanage has been hanging on the line to talk about fuel. What do you want to tell me, Janine? Good morning.
First time calling, Nick.
Hello. How long have you been listening?
I've been listening since last night.
Oh, right.